I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Hi folks, welcome to my new channel. You know, when I look at the world today and I see that YouTube is starting to demonetize some of my favorite YouTubers for talking about the things that really matter in this world. You know, they're not talking about makeup tutorials or cooking or all the things that advertisers love to show their products, where they send these YouTubers products for free, and then the YouTubers take these products and use them in a video and act like, oh, I use this product all the time, even though I just got sent it for free because I have a channel. But then the other people who are talking about real life and people and how big government is taking over the world, this is not profitable. You can't be sent some product to sell to people. So it seems YouTube is starting to take notice of this and demonetize the channels that are talking about this type of thing. So I should begin by explaining maybe what this channel is intended to be about. It might change over time, I don't know, but right now I've got some ideas around talking about socialism, because I think socialism is always a very tempting idea, and it appeals to the poor and probably to sort of the lower middle classes as well. And it's understandable why it would appeal to those. Those tend to be the biggest single group of people in any given country, and they're the people who have the least in any given country. And then socialism has all these promises of taking things from the haves and giving it to the have-nots, and these people are the have-nots, and people like the sound of that, but it doesn't really work that way, does it? And take it from me, who's from a socialist country called the United Kingdom, people tend to forget that it is a socialist country. We have free healthcare, we have free education. What that means is we have 9-month waiting lists to get to see a doctor, and when you go to university, the universities don't want you, because even though you've got the qualifications, they can make more money by accepting someone from abroad who's going to pay, say, £15,000 a year, whereas you go for nothing. So that's the reality of socialism. It's all these nice promises, and they don't really pan out in real economic terms. Probably another topic closely tied to socialism is imperialism. I started this off learning about linguistic imperialism, which is basically the study of certain languages exerting power influences over other languages in the world. And I don't think I really need to say much more before people start to realize that English itself is a sort of imperialistic language. It's spoken in every country in the world. It's the world diplomatic language. Most academic research in the world is done in English. So if you want your country to get ahead in the world, then all your leading academics have to be able to speak English and write in English so that they can read the top journals, which are all in English. Also closely related to cultural imperialism, because people's cultures tend to be tied to their own local languages, and when you start replacing those local languages with another language, bits and pieces and sometimes all of your traditions and values get eliminated. And I myself, I'm from Scotland, and just a very small country, and if you go into the history, you will just see this repeated again and again. Like, we had our own language and we had our own history, but our histories were mostly bardic lore that was passed from mother to child, father to child through stories, and then the children would remember these stories word for word. And once you change the language, these stories just completely get lost, completely get forgotten, and so Scottish people don't really know where they come from anymore. I generally like to introduce economic imperialism with the following quote from US military intelligence, where they say that the de facto role of the US armed forces will be to keep the world safe for our economy and open to our cultural assault. To those ends, we will do a fair amount of killing. Now, what this tells you is the chief purpose of the US military in the modern world is to keep the world safe for the US economy. All the US corporations, the great foundations, everyone who's doing business in the world use the US economy. We all love the economy, but why they want to protect it so badly? Well, the act of protecting it leads to the conclusion of keeping the world open to our cultural assault. But in academic terms, it's a centre power exerting influence over periphery nations. And in our world, that is really America. It used to be the British Empire, and people would say that the sun would never set on the British Empire. And look, the sun did set, because now the British Empire has no power. But what I hope to be able to show that maybe it wasn't so much the British Empire that had power, so much as it was the corporations that constituted the British Empire, and these corporations still exist today. They just, nowadays, their main operations are from a different country. They're from the United States. And if, I don't know, 100 years from now, if the United States was going downhill, didn't want to exist anymore, then probably these corporations would just exist somewhere else. Maybe China. Maybe China would become the next world power, and people would say, oh, it's the Chinese empire, but if you look behind the scenes, it would still be the same corporations. The other major topic I'd like to talk about on this channel is public relations. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that's probably the least important of the topics, because public relations is just advertising, and advertising is everywhere. You see it on TV, you see it when we open a magazine. Every university has a public relations department. So you might think it's kind of innocuous, but I hope to convince you that public relations is probably the most important thing we'll be talking about on this channel, because you've got imperialism, you've got socialism, but the thing that really enables them, the thing that allows them to happen, is public relations. Many of the evils we accept as part of the world today would not be accepted if public relations did not exist. So what is public relations? Public relations is taking bad things and making them sound like good things. Public relations itself is an official public relations term, because the real original term is propaganda, and the propaganda term for propaganda is public relations. The original term of education is indoctrination. That was the widely accepted, widely used term for education, maybe 50 years ago. And so the propaganda term for indoctrination is education. And if you open the newspaper today and you see something like, I don't know, the Ministry of Defence has to send more troops to the Middle East to protect the interests of our government. The Ministry of Defence is the public relations word for the Ministry of War. There's no such thing as a Ministry of Defence. Every country for thousands of years, they have a Ministry of War. Why does the Ministry of War exist? What is its purpose? What is its function? Well, its function is in the name. The Ministry of War exists to go to war. But people don't like war. Sounds bad, sounds mean. People don't like to be the bad guys. So they use the public relations word to call it the Ministry of Defence, and suddenly the function, its function is taken out of the name, and it's been replaced by a new function of defence. Well, if its function is defence, then it doesn't need to go across the world and do anything, because that's war, that's not defence. Public relations really destroys our language, destroys our words, and gives us new words that bear no meaning as to what the purpose of things are. It gives us a perceived reality which is very different from the actual reality. And that is essentially the core of what I hope to get at on this channel. The powers that be do have a plan, and most of it is published, and you can read it on their own official websites. And it is bad for most people. We don't have a plan. We have no direction. We don't know what we want in the future. We're pretty happy living day to day, and we don't realise that there's this whole plan and agenda above us, guiding us in a certain direction. And I hope that I can show you what that direction is, and then discuss our own direction, because I for one don't want to go in the direction that they are leading us, and I think if most of you knew what that direction was, you also would not support it. So hopefully, if I fill in your information gaps, you can come to your own conclusions, and then we can work together to look for a better alternative.